Yoo-hoo! It's the time for package from China. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in, because in this video we are going to be taking a look at the Anbernic RG40XX-H. So this is one of those many devices Anbernic releases, but the thing they're doing is so much better what they did in the past. So what do I mean with this? So when you're looking at these devices, they're getting like into a certain kind of software that you can also upgrade. So the weird thing is, if you're going to be looking into this device, the software, it's similar to all the other devices, only in different form factor with different configurations. However, Anbernic overall quality is quite good, and I'm always surprised how they manage to get themselves like a new model every single month. But let's do a quick overview of this device and what are we getting in the inside, because there's of course the deluxe toilet paper manual with not a lot of information, but enough. For example, giving you, let's say, an overview of what you can do, how you can change it out, and how the emulation shortcuts all work. So that is one of the things I love about Anbernic, a good explanation with the deluxe toilet paper manual. However, let's take a close look at the device itself. The form factor, you're going to be loving or hating it. I mean, I personally love those, let's say, very cool Game Boy look-alike thingies, but I find it very cool also to play with these landscape models, because most of them, they're very comfortable. So holding it in my hand, I'm already noticing a couple of things. So first of all, the D-pad, where the D-pad of the, when it comes to the handheld, it's going to be a hit or miss situation over here. So the D-pad has like a lot of resistance, and I don't know if I'm going to be liking that, because with previous models I've reviewed, most of them have a very overall good, let's say feel of the D-pad. So the A, B, X, Y button, they feel absolutely great and have a nice touch. So the analog sticks, I'm not going to be using the right one most of the time, but they stay implemented on most of the devices. And what is the downside? If you're going to be holding it, you can just feel the thumbs in, or at least the thumbs in just touching the control sticks. It's quite annoying, and that is one of the reasons I mostly prefer to have a landscape with only a left joystick or no joysticks at all. Having the M button, select and start. At the bottom we have stereo speakers, and they sound quite nice. Having the option for 2 SD cards is something they're doing for a long time now, and I love it. And there's only one implemented in the system. But let's remove it and let's take a close look. So they're using this brand called Xia or Xio, whatever. I don't know if it's going to be in good brand at all, because it's possible these cards can get corrupted out of nothing after a couple of weeks or months. Having a jack out, and at the top we're finding an HDMI mini, so it's kind of very cool. They can plug it in, so this is more like a hybrid device. Have volume control, having the on-off switch, and USB-C for charging. And when it comes to the shoulder and the other buttons at the top, they're all micro switched. Form factor wise, they went for a very flat device model, and it's quite interesting. I've seen Pow Kitties having all kinds of very comfortable models, particularly when it comes, I think it was the Max 2 or Max 3, having these bumps and make it super comfortable actually to play and hold this thing. So also implement a reset button if something goes wrong. But let's power it on. Let's hold the power button for a couple of seconds. The LED in the middle will turn green, and here you can see it will automatically boot up. So one thing I always recommend to the people is like, hey, you just back up your, let's say, SD card with a simple reason. If you don't do this and it gets corrupted, you have nothing. You need to rebuild everything. And I'm keep talking, and the reason also is because you can see how fast it will boot up. It will take some time. The menu is just a basic software you're getting, but in here we're finding a very nice looking manual, if I may say myself. In here having all of the, let's say, the first list and the second. So the reason they're doing this runs on separate emulators what I understand of, and this runs on RetroArch itself. You're having some app senders and favorites. And going on, we're having here history. You can see what kind of games that we have been testing out, search, and let's say the way how this actually works, for example, with the settings and everything else. We have all kinds of different things you can do with it. But let's do a quick overview of the menu itself. Having here the first list, having Place Portable, PlayStation 1, the Capcom system, Neo Geo, all kinds of handhelds, 8-bit, 16-bit, and even a subject especially for the Sega 32X. So that's kind of cool, even there are not a lot of games on there, and a lot of different handhelds. So moving on to the RetroArch list, we're also having a different setup. We have now N64, and wait, package from China! I'm coming! Alright, so we're back. and let's power on the device. And what I wanted to say is it's a different configuration with different kind of emulators like N64. So not everything will run perfectly, but there's still a lot of that is playable. Sega Dreamcast is over here, having all kinds of cool games. Atomic Wave and similar like emulators, only throughout RetroArch will be emulated. So that's actually how it is when it comes to, let's say, to a list over here. App Center, we can listen to some music if you want to. You can just see that it turns off. You need to choose the SD card, and from there we can actually listen to music. So if you're going to be implementing in second, then it's going to be absolutely interesting to see. In here we have different extra options, even an equalizer. So it's kind of interesting. Close the app, and you can just see that it also turns off the rainbow RGB through on the analog sticks. Video, having ebook, file manager, expert, and the apps over here. When I mentioned we can put in favorite list, that's one of the features I love about this, because if you're going to be scrolling, let's say in night throughout the games, you could just make a very easy favorite list, and throughout we can just go into, let's say, the games that you want to play, because in the end, even if there are thousands of games on it, you will always play a certain amount. So let's see, we're going to be searching for Sonic. And the thing I love about this, I can see over there on the top it shows the platform, but also this is just a GBA emulator, and this is throughout RetroArch seeing the RA. So when you're looking at everything, the way how it works, when this may be not the best software itself, it's just very convenient and just easy to use. I did notice with one of the emulators, we do have a little bit of an audio delay. It's quite unfortunate. Even throughout the year, we're seeing many new devices that are still using the same buggy software. So in other words, the community and we need to fix our own devices every single time. Sometimes you see stores selling the devices with better overall software, and makes it absolutely so much more fun. Because I don't know how it's with you, but I think tinkering with these devices can be fun, but it is not for everyone. But when it comes to the overall performance, you can just see it runs pretty good when it comes to PlayStation 1, native resolution. So the thing that annoys me the most at this point is the right joystick with my thumb bashing into it. Ray mentioned it before, but it's quite comfortable. Even they don't have like this ergonomic design like the Pow Kitty. So when it comes to playing some PlayStation 1, it's just amazing to see that we can have so many fun with this. So pressing the M button, in here we're having all kinds of different options. We can even adjust the brightness if you want to. And we can get out of the game, making quick load, quick save, and all that kind of things. But another test I wanted to do, how is it when it comes to the controls of the D-pad. So I already mentioned that it's having quite a lot of resistance, and I don't find it always that pleasant to play these games. So when it comes to the inputs, I do have a little bit of a handicap over here. But all of the inputs of the character will be registered like it should be. There is no problem whatsoever. So we're playing this is no problem whatsoever. Also emulation is great on this. I must say that when it comes to, let's say, the overall D-pad input, it's good, but I don't like the resistance. It's a little bit too sturdy for me. But the overall standalone emulators, it's kind of a disappointing situation from the stock software. You can just hear that the audio is just stuttering all over the place, and that's a little bit of a downside. So we're going to be moving to the RetroArch. I would not be surprised that everything runs so much better. So I already mentioned when playing the Crash Bandicoot game 2, it's kind of a little bit of a downside that where this thing is quite good when it comes to the overall quality, why they just slapping on some random software that doesn't work great. Like we're like a couple of months or maybe years further when it comes to some devices. Why are they not like putting a little bit more effort in and not putting that on the lap of the community all the freaking time? Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back to the RetroArch situation. And let's see if we can find some Super NES in here. And from this point I'm going to be moving on and just playing actually just the same other games throughout this way, because most of this stuff doesn't even work that great. Okay, so let's go to the Lamborghini challenge, and you will see that we don't have the same issues anymore through RetroArch. They also implemented some bezels. Personally, I'm not always the biggest fan of this. Personally, you just give me like a right aspect ratio with black bars, but again, it's personal. But you can just hear that it's completely not toning at all. Let's say it like that. It's running so much better now. I did notice I need to crank up the volume a little bit more. But so far, everything seems to be working fine. Also, the analog stick can be used. So at this point, if you want to just play this system out of the box, you don't want to tinker with the software, I think you need to go into the RetroArch, particularly when it comes to the other games. The only downside is when pressing the M, or downside, is you can see having the RetroArch menu, not the fancy menu with all kinds of different options for the display. So we're kind of limited in here. And let's go quit and go back to the main menu again. So moving on to some Sega Saturn, where I think it's going to be also a hit or miss situation because with the software, but also when it comes to, let's say, the overall power. But we do have the option to play some Sega Saturn, and that's kind of cool because Sega Saturn is a device I personally didn't grow up with. I bought it way much later, but it has so many cool games, like Donpachi, for example. But when it comes to emulation, let's see. Let's get into some bullet hell and see if this is going to be any fun playing. I do have the feeling that in the beginning it did struggle. Analog stick isn't configured with this. But so far so good. It's enjoyable. Oh man, I love these shmups. They're so much fun. Or shoot 'em ups. The D-pad is just excellent for this. Same situation with the resistance of the D-pad, but I find it less annoying with games like Donpachi or shmups itself. But so far so good. Same situation pressing M, but this time we're going to be using the Yaba Shenshiro emulator, so we're going to be having a different menu. And we can just exit the game if I'm going to be pressing the right freaking button. So when N64, I mostly play this on some PC emulated, simply because we can upscale it, but also having overall better, let's say, just emulation solution and performance. But when it comes to Raytrace 64, and there were so many different devices out there that can actually emulate this without any problem whatsoever. You can see some weird glitches, also the screen is not perfectly aligned. But so far so good. In the beginning I did notice some overall, let's say, performance dip. But actually getting into the gameplay, I do have some good overall performance, so I can enjoy myself, some wave race. The joystick is very responsive, and I find it quite comfortable to play. So there's absolutely a lot of fun playing some N64 on the go with this. Yeah, so far so good. And there are many different games out there. Think about maybe some Diddy Kong Racing, the launch titles. GoldenEye will struggle, but we can do some in-depth more about the N64 later on. And the same goes for the PlayStation Portable part. We do have two black bars. This has to do with the resolution of the original PlayStation display and the display we're actually going to be using in this. But emulation performance is quite nice. Hit or miss situation. You can see the stuttering going on. Now let's see how the overall gameplay is. So actually starting up the game, playing some Tekken 5. This runs perfectly so far, or perfectly so far perfect can be with the performance and the software we're using. Well, one of the things I do really enjoy about this product is the audio quality. The two speakers sound really great, and the combination with the screen, man. So one of the features I think is absolutely awesome is the HDMI out. So what is so cool, that you can just bring this thing with you. Let's say you're in a hotel, you can just plug this thing into a television and play thousands of games, or the games that you installed on it. And it works perfectly. But let's get into it and let's see how good it actually works out with a couple of games. The screen automatically switches to the monitor itself. So where we don't have any upscaling going on with some device or systems, some games will look pixelated if you're going to be putting this on like a massive display. Here I'm using 24 inches of However, if you're going to be looking this on a 55-inch television, oh man, no. It's not going to be an overall great experience. Oh man, this looks really pixelated on a massive screen. But let's go back to a different game. Pressing the M and start will automatically exit it, so you don't need to go through the RetroArch menu. Where this device can play some of the, let's say, many the newer generation of machines, most of the time I'm just going to be playing some old school Sega. Yep, I love this game. Emulation is just spot on now without any problems, and this is just absolutely awesome. I love playing these games on the television, on my arcade machine or the original systems. But so far, no problem whatsoever when it comes to that. And it works so seamlessly when it comes to playing the games, rebooting it, going back, and that's it, man. It works absolutely good. Oh man, one of the games I love to play on this is Sega Dreamcast with some old school Power Stone. However, the emulator needs to do some tweaking. What is kind of cool, that the vibration motor in this thing works perfectly with this particular game. The vibration motor is not going to be utilized with a lot of devices. For example, with N64, some kind, none of them utilizes it. We're seeing some glitches out of the box. So far, it's not super bad. Still figuring out how to shoot with the freaking cannon. Also for this game, the D-pad, it works perfectly, but due to the resistance, it's not going to be my favorite handheld to play when it comes to Power Stone, for example. But also if you want to play some Sega Nomi or some Dreamcast, we do have some great performance here. So we reached into this point that we have so many devices that we can actually play now. But you do hear a little bit of struggling, but I would not be surprised that we can actually fix that when it comes to, let's say, software upgrades in the future. But out of the box, we do get some good performance. The one thing I do wonder is, like, I'm going to be unplugging this. Let's see what happens. If it automatically switches back to the main menu. But I'm guessing most of the time what you need to do with these devices is going back to the main menu and then going to be pulling out the cable. So now you can just see so far nothing is happening. Let's plug it back in. Sticking it in the wrong hole. Alright, so, or it just freezes and doesn't do anything, or in this case it goes back to the game. Let's see if I can go back to the menu. As you see, it doesn't really like it when you're going to be plugging it in and out. Okay, so it's exiting now. Let's plug it out. And let's see if we can get into the menu, or do we need to do a lot of shenanigans? Oh, there we go. So out of the box, the RG40XX-H is quite an interesting piece of equipment. However, we have seen this many times before, and this is just a new form factor. Is this then one of my favorite ones? Nope, absolutely not. With a simple reason that my thumbs are just bashing into the analog sticks all of the time. Beautiful display, and Anbernic, in my opinion, should stop using the crappy SD cards, get a good brand, and also, what is even more important, stop releasing too many devices, because it's getting really confusing and there's just too much choice. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, and it would be great to see you in the next video.